Here.
Seventh tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We will now pass the basket. This is a weekly step meeting. Our format is as follows. The speaker is asked to talk for 25 to 30 minutes on the step of that week, followed by discussions or questions until 7 p.m. You can find these weekly meetings on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group at Doylestown. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share. That brings us to the speaker portion of our meeting on this day of May 27th, 2024 in Doylestown, PA, at the Monday night 6 p.m. Stay Alive Literature and Step Group at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Steve, and they will be sharing their experience on Step 6 and 7. Please help me welcome Steve.
Steve, alcoholic.
Hey, Steve.
Happy Memorial Day to everybody. I know most of you very, very well. I've seen you around, and it's nice to have you here. I don't know if it's more difficult or easier in a setting like this with you guys, but here we are, and May 27th, 2024. So today actually marks 11 months of continuous sobriety for me. Just another day, and coming up on a year, but it's, I feel like I've had to work every day of this one. Like it, a lot of times in the past, sober for a period, go out for a period, and it gets harder every time to come back. For me anyway, it gets harder. Like I had to fully commit early on to really, good job, Chris. So Chris, and I'm grateful to be up here tonight. Chris asked me to speak on 6 and 7, and we were kind of having a little meeting before the meeting, and I was dreading this a little bit all weekend, and as I was sitting here as we were doing the readings, I was kind of just contemplating why that was, because typically I don't have a problem. We go up there and I have no problem going into a detox with some hardened guys and speaking, or if into a jail, I'd have no problem or whatever. But like sometimes, something like this that maybe is a little bit more, well, why is it? Why am I disturbed? Well, maybe because it's a part of my game that's difficult for me, that I struggle with. Just to kind of lay the groundwork of my story. A Buffs County guy, born and raised, middle class family. Basically wanted for nothing my entire life. We're not wealthy, but the best schools, and summers down on the beach in Avalon or Stone Harbor, and different sports and this and that and the other thing. But I was born into an alcoholic household, and my father had issues, and his father, and so on that side of the family, every male member of that side of the family struggles with alcoholism, every single one of them, and going back a couple generations. So I knew there was something off with me as a kid before I ever picked up a drink. My alcoholism was ever present my entire life, basically from my earliest memories, maybe 5 or 6. I had like a something was different. Something was like just a little bit off with me. Special snowflake, whatever you want to call it. But it was just, my watch was ticking at a different rate than everybody else. That's the way I felt anyway. And and then I pick up a drink in high school, and all of a sudden everything was right in the world. Like I felt like, man, this is wow. Like I could breathe I could exhale for the first time. Like, and I was determined to never go another moment of my life without that lubrication, without that social, lubrication really is what it was. And I proceeded to live my life like that with a number of different substances for a lot of years. And I was my journey with alcohol and other substances is a big part of my story. But I am definitely alcoholic to the bone. There's periods of time where I am functional, because and I say this all the time, like if I could drink and use, and have no consequences or no adverse effects, I would not be sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous today. I mean, like that. Alcohol was never my problem. It was the solution I felt to my problem. It really was. But I started to have some serious consequences from it. So, the progression of the disease and things, pick up. High school really is like my first, embarrassment, and consequence from this thing. And I was at a prep school down in Wynmoor, Cheltenham area. My family was so proud. I got this partial scholarship. Went to a small Catholic grade school, up to 8th grade, and I got this partial scholarship, and I was, joined the rowing team down there, and I got involved with selling weed down there, and I got caught, and I was asked to leave, and that was like a really big embarrassment for myself and my family, and that was the first consequence that I ever had from my alcoholism. And things go on, high school, and I kind of get by with decent grades, and I'm a good athlete, and I go to college, go up the street here at Del Valle to play college football, and I have a pretty bad knee injury, and back early 2000s, they were handing out prescription opiates like it was going out of style, and I was like a 19-year-old kid, and I was on a heavy, I was alcoholic way before that happened. But that kind of ignited a different version of this thing, and basically from about 1920 to like early 30s, basically was a progression of this thing that took me places that I could never even imagine. And it quite literally went from like the country club to jail to the street. Living on the street, in and out of county prisons and POs and there was just times where I thought these small moments of clarity where I just was thinking to myself, how the heck did I get here? I just had no idea, but I couldn't imagine going through my life for 5 minutes without either thinking about or putting something in my body. I was paroled to some recovery houses, and people tried reaching out to me from 12-step fellowships, and the seeds were planted very early. I really believe that I was a guy that was constitutionally incapable of getting sober, like it says in the book. That's the first thing I ever really identified with in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was that line. There are people that are constitutionally incapable, and I believed that for a long time. I thought, that's me. I am constitutionally incapable. But I didn't really understand the rest of it. But they have the ability to recover if they have the capacity to be honest. And so. I really, and I was sharing this before the meeting to a good friend of mine who's owned recovery houses, helped thousands of people, and he tried to take his own life a couple days ago, and that's what real alcoholism looks like, He wasn't even loaded. He tried to take his own life. That's how ugly this thing is, It's a guy that I'm not even exaggerating. Thousands of young men this guy has helped into sobriety, recovery on Reed down there, and just had a great reputation. And and that's how this thing shows up. And but I was bedside with him, and it kind of reminded me of my own journey in that area. And we're coming up on the anniversary of this, but July 3rd of 2007. You know, I had a bad situation with a substance that almost killed me, and you know, it was serious. It was I had aspirated overnight, and I didn't have oxygen for they don't know how long, and I was in Doylestown Hospital, and I was given last rites. My parents signed my organs over. They were getting ready to harvest my organs. My kidneys were shutting down. My liver was shutting down, and they thought I was brain dead. You know, you know, and I was in a coma for 7 or 8 days, something like that, and I woke up. You know, I woke up, and it turns out everything was okay. You know, you think that would have slowed me down for a couple of weeks. You know, that fear until I got back on my feet, right back at it. So like every day that I'm here is a gift. It really is. Like I shouldn't be here. That's like one story of like 10. And actually, my nickname, a couple of buddies tell me this, is 9 lives. But those 9 lives, I feel have run their course. And like so, this is my last chance at AA. So, November 24th of 2016, I went into another inpatient treatment, and by this time, I had been around some guys that kind of really explained what this program was all about, and you know, and the solution. You know, it was like, look, this is what you suffer from. This is the solution. It's up to you if you want to do the work. So I had a little bit of knowledge. Like I said, every time I would come around, a little bit more would be learned. I'd have a little bit more willingness. God would put the right people in my life, and so I went to this treatment center. And after about 4 or 5 days, I was about to AMA and leave. I was going to take an Uber, you know, and do what I do and basically kill myself. And I reached out to God. I was taking a shower. I broke down crying. And within 24 hours, they made me the president of the community, which is nothing except for the fact that I got to take an AA meeting up to the detox. I'd only been down to the rehab for about two days, but I knew more than some other people in the center. And so as co-president, we got to take this AA meeting up to the detox center, and for the first time in my life, like I had discovered like the missing link to this recovery thing, which was giving back to other people. And I had an immediate awakening that first night after that first meeting of going up there and talking. And these people were half zombies, but a couple of them really kind of identified with what we were saying and came alive. And the freedom that I had when I walked out of the detox that night was like, it just clicked. It was like, wow. Like I had been so selfish. Like it was always like I'd come in and get sober, and it was like, you know, worrying about this and repairing this. Well, what is my job and this? And I was like, no, dummy. The answer is service to other people. But I had to experience. I had to get that flavor to really want more of it. And so I get out of treatment, and I went with that guy who's on life support right now down in one of his houses, and I chased this thing. I did, and I linked up with a solid sponsor down there, and for the first time in my life, I went through and I really went through and lived the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the book, and got to the point, you know, relatively quickly where I was trying to take other guys through this thing and doing H&I commitments and praying on a regular basis, and for the first time in my life, I had real freedom from what I suffer from. And you know, and hey, Ron says this to me, you know, like a couple of years go by, and you know, AA gives me all these gifts. Like, I mean, like I go from a low bottom street junkie that nobody wants anything to do with, and all of a sudden, like I'm kind of somebody, or I think I am, you know, and you know, and I lose sight of my primary purpose, you know, and I'll get, and this is kind of where the 6 and 7, or the lack of 6 and 7. So, you know, for me, it kind of it's kind of a backtrack, right? So obviously the steps are in order, and so, you know, 2016 to 2020. So I wound up picking up again July 22nd or 23rd of 2020. So basically what happened was, during that period of sobriety, you know, I really failed. I got to a point maybe 2 years in where I was kind of at a crossroads, and I kind of reached like a plateau a little bit, and basically the fork in the road was chasing the worldly things. With, I'd started a business at that point. I just gotten into a relationship with a girl, or was about to get into like a relationship with a girl who I wind up having a child with and marry. First time in my life, like I had some disposable income, and I wasn't like some like loser, right? And or take the other fork in the road, and that was to enlarge my spiritual life and my relationship with God. And obviously, I picked up, and I chose the worldly stuff, and and it didn't happen at first. It took probably about a year and a half. And I was still doing H&I stuff. H&I stuff kept me sober for a little while. Still always had like a guy or two that I was working with, which kept me sober for a while. But my prayer meditation was the first thing to go. So like my 11 step was the first thing to go. Okay. Then my 10 step, my daily litmus test for like my behavior was the next thing to go, right? Then all of a sudden, 6 and 7, these things that really that live in like deep in my soul, really, and the stuff the unpleasant things about me that I feel like that I use drugs and alcohol to mask or cover up because I can't stand those things about myself. Were just was like ripping open like ripping off a Band-Aid. And then COVID hit, and that COVID was like the final nail in the coffin at that time. And so, myself that was not God reliant and was relying on, H&I stuff and all that, which is fine, but I wasn't it wasn't the full picture that I needed, and it was COVID hit, and all of a sudden everything in person was shut down, and H&I was shut down, and the only thing left was my relationship with God, and man, it's like this is how I felt. It was like, I talked about that fork in the road. Well, I wasn't even on one of the roads. I had wandered off out into the woods. And like once I realized where I was, it was too late. And I looked around, and it was just I was just lost. And and I went out. And I picked up, and I was out for 2.5 years, and highly functional for a while. Kept the business going and this and that, until I wasn't. And so I'd say last Mother's Day was the beginning of the end. So I was down on the beach. I rented a place for my wife and my little family, and I brought something down there with me. I brought a little dry good down there with me, and thought nobody would know. She knew. She found it. She left me down at the beach with my little daughter, and I was introduced to a substance down there that I'd never done before. Basically started about 8 weeks from Mother's Day to June 27th. Was an 8-week run of basically a suicide mission for me, and the culmination of that was June 27th of 2023. I was up at my shop in Plumsteadville. I was sitting in my shop, all alone, strung out, with a handgun and a .357 in my hand, and about to pull the trigger, and like I did down at Bowling Green in 2016, I sent up a sincere prayer to God, and I asked for help, and He gave me just enough willingness to pick up the phone and make a call to a treatment center, and they came down, they picked me up, and here I am today. this, like I alluded to earlier, like this 11 months has not been easy. And I don't make it easy on myself because, you know, like I, my character defects, my shortcomings, are what I struggle with every day. I mean, and some of them are significant. So, I have addictions in other areas of my life that if they aren't kept in check and worked on a daily basis, will take me back to a drink. And I play with fire every day, or not every day, but often enough where it's dangerous. And I was away this weekend, and I don't, I have my daughter, and I'm not in a relationship and stuff. So, I'm down in AC, Atlantic City, and I'm with other guys that, family members and friends, and I have a couple bucks in my pocket, and this is where I struggle. It's like sex is a big problem for me. It's probably the number one thing that I've struggled with this past year. And so for me, sex is like alcohol and drugs. It's a progressive thing. It's not, it's like, I don't go back to like, looking at the Playboy centerfold and getting a rise off of that. It's things that I partake in that are it's basically the same thing as the chase when I was, copping down in North Philly. The risk, putting myself in really compromising situations where I could be killed, robbed, things that affect my health, just evils that just evil, like evil on a level that is really, really horrible. And so, I had a situation down there this weekend, and Chris asked me to speak on 6 and 7, and I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it, and it was like weighing on me the whole, this whole weekend. It's like, I wake up and I run through a 7-step prayer in the morning, but like what, the problem with, so it's, for me, it's like, I get sober and I'm like, I have a relationship with God. All right. Drugs and alcohol, no problem. Take that. Take all, that's fine. But like all these other areas, and it's not just sex. That's a big area for me. But it's, it's money. It's like chasing money. It's, ego. And like, so like, it's tough for me to ask God to remove those things because, like, I want to be sober, but I also want these other things. Like, it's difficult for me, haven't really, like, the thought of like a drink or a drug is just not going to be there. With everything going on with my custody and all that. But if I don't get a handle on my behaviors and my character defects here, and which are glaring, in the next couple months, then it might be a situation not so much where I'm out on a run. It might be a situation where, I wake up one day and look in the mirror and don't want to live. Like that's, and that's, I don't know, is there really much of a difference? Not, it's like the same thing. It's just, but that's like basically where my disease has kind of progressed to, the dark place that it's progressed to. So on a positive note, 11 months sober today, and just for today, I'm okay. I'm here with you guys, and speaking, and I had a beautiful day with my daughter, and I made a couple calls to some guys, a guy down in Croydon in a recovery house today, and another guy. Like, I offset this stuff, and like I am, not a great person in some areas, but I really just try to work my butt off in some other areas to kind of offset what's going on, and I think that speaking here tonight was kind of a good wake up call for me to get on top of what's going on, of my outside issues, and to really, I bought a book also. I was working with a guy from Avenues. He left and went back home, but I bought this book. This is how dismissive I am of my own issues in other areas in 6 and 7. So I bought the book Drop the Rock to read with this guy, right? And it's a short book. I mean, it's probably like 85, 90 pages. It's not long. And we were supposed to read it together. I bought the books for both of us. He read the book. I read 3 pages and I never continued with the reading. And so, and I was thinking I'm thinking to myself, man, Chris asked me to speak on 6 and 7. I have dropped the rock. I guess it's tough. This area is very, very, very tough for me, and maybe this will be the jumping off point and the catalyst for a lot more work in this area. So that's all I got. I appreciate you guys listening.
All right. Please keep your shares related to the step. If you feel like drinking or if you have had a drink today, please see me or speak to someone after the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from the use of profanity. We are in a church and on a spiritual journey. The meeting is open to y'all.